There was something truly special in doing a job that had never changed. I felt the connection, not only with my heritage, but with the vaqueros. Despite our differences, in the corrals we were equals.
That was a clip from Cowboys Without Borders, a new documentary that takes us through North, Central, and South America to highlight the values and hard work of ranchers.
The man behind the film is Houston area writer and director Gastón Davis, who joins us now with more on this passion project. Welcome, Gastón. It's great to have you in studio. I know you have family still here. You actually live up in the Fort Worth area now. Talk to us about how this film got made, because I think what a lot of people maybe don't realize is this takes a lot of time, a lot of love.
That's right, Derek and Courtney. Thank you so much for having me. You're right. I mean, so I am from Houston originally, born and raised, but my wife, Catherine, our son, Fritz, we live in Fort Worth now. But yes, I mean, it only took 5 years, Derek. I mean, that's what I'm saying. From start to finish, right after graduating college, I went and I just kind of felt this calling. I knew I needed to go learn Spanish and work with cowboys in South America. And so after doing that for 6 months, I came back and I studied film at the University of Texas, and I felt equipped to tell this story that there's not just cowboys in Texas, there's cowboys in all over the world, and I saw them and I worked with them day in and day out. So I felt equipped to tell that story, and by gosh, we did, and that's what Cowboys Without Borders is.
It's really fantastic when you, Gastón, put this into, it took you 5 years to make. Being on a ranch is something that is not unfamiliar to you. Your family has been doing this, since the late 1800s?
Yes,
and I know it's a passion project, but how easy was it for you to go not only across the country here in Montana, but Argentina and South America to basically film the lives of these ranchers?
It was a lot easier with the help of Alex Walker. He's our director of photography, cinematographer, and he is as good as they get. I mean, he is phenomenal. There's only one cameraman, and it was just him. He was the solo guy filming. He on the fly learned how to use a drone, and so during that time, we were able to capture interviews and the working lives of these cowboys and the personal lives too, which is what I'm really passionate about. I wanted to show this figure not just as the working figure that we all know and love, but also the personal lives behind it, which makes it more intimate and more personal.
So many people might think, Gastón, about the cowboy story as being, obviously it's a critical part of American history, right?
That's right.
But for so many of us who live in cities, we often forget that cowboys and ranching, I mean, that's a critical part of our lives today. So what do you hope viewers take away after seeing your film?
I love that question, and I think one of the main objectives of the film is to bridge the gap that I think is increasingly largening between urban America and rural America. I think the further we get away from our roots, I think we all have ancestors who were in the agricultural business at one point in time, somewhere down the road, but the further we get away from that, the less and less we're in touch with it and have that understanding. So thankfully, I have the background of being, raised in Houston, as urban as it gets, but also the rural background with the family ranch since 1880. And so I felt, again, equipped to help bridge that gap. And I hope that's what this film does.
I love hearing your voice on the documentary as well. Was there anything that you think surprised you along the journey?
I think one of the most surprising elements, so yes, the cowboy, he does the same objective. I think just the way they do it looks a little bit different. And I think one of the most surprising things to me was in Argentina. And there's a scene in the film where no one is saying anything while we're having a meal. And I just loved the silence. You hear the river, you hear the fire crackling, you hear whatever else you hear in nature in that moment, and I just loved that moment. I said, no one's on their phone. They didn't even have phones, and it was such a moment that I could just sit back and appreciate God's creation.
Yeah.
Just the images alone that we've been seeing during this interview, that alone is breathtaking. Let's talk about the response or reaction from the Cowboys, because showing up with a film crew, I mean, this might be rather unusual. So what was that process like?
I think in Montana and Texas, I saw at times, because it's an industry that doesn't like to shed light on itself. And I think that's great. They're very humble, and I understand that. But I also think beautiful things don't ask for attention. And so through that, I think the agriculture culture is industry is a beautiful thing. And so whenever I try to put a camera in front of them to interview them, they can get a little sheepish and they can be a little bit, don't put me on the camera. But I think it's important that we understand these people, and we understand that they're figures in our society and they're truly important. I didn't see it as much in Mexico and Argentina, and I think it's because it was so foreign a concept that I was actually able to catch, a little bit more of a primitive culture and very traditional, and I was very honored to capture that. Yeah.
Super cool.
5 years in the making, and I know we're finally able to see this, but what's next for you? We always want to know what the next chapter is. Do you see a part 2, or is there something else that you want to dive into?
I do think that there could be a part 2. I love the idea. I actually learned along the way through Michael Grauer. He's the curator of the National Cowboy Museum, that the cowboy originally started in Africa, and that was the original herdsman. And then they kind of moved towards the Caribbean, and I think a deeper dive into the origins of the cowboy might be a really cool story to tell.
And also what is next is, Fritz, his 6-month-old son. Yeah. And Catherine, your wife, I know you're quite busy also working in steel and construction. Yes. So you've got a lot going on. Gaston, thank you so much for stopping by Houston Life.
Thank you for having me, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Anytime. Stop by. And in the meantime, Cowboys Without Borders is now available for purchase or rental on Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. If you would like more information, you can visit our website and look for the Scene on Houston Life section.